Whew, man, talk about just falling apart today. But the reality is I actually had two really exciting meetings, and I am extremely diligent about being on time for my weekly lives, as I think it's a very important thing for you guys to feel confident that I'm going to be on time on a weekly basis. And so in 2 years, I think I've been late twice. So I apologize for coming in late, but I did have two really phenomenal meetings that I felt were important enough to give the time that they were needed. And that was a conversation about a kind of a community company that we are considering starting and working on, and then also a conversation with a relocation. Well, no, it's actually kind of a relocation client that I just was really excited about having that conversation because we were able to discuss a lot of these important changes that has happened in the real estate world with the National Association of Realtors, what we do with our clients as far as activity and boundaries and value. So two really exciting meetings that kind of threw my day for, a wrench in my day, because I started out super early this morning, listening to the city council meeting that discussed really not too much. So we'll talk about that here shortly, but the ban of retail puppy sales and cat sales and retail stores in Fort Collins, as well as the basically community group that will be paid for and put on to decide the future potentially of Hughes Stadium. One of which I feel is extremely important. But the second one is, I don't want to not have a heart, because I was thinking about some of the comments that were made, and I was like, you know what, there's definitely some truth to that. So I don't want to discount it, because I know in past lives we have we've really kind of talked about how there's more important things to discuss than, the retail sales of dogs and cats. That being said, let's jump into today's live in Fort Collins. We'll keep it relatively short because we're running a little bit late. This last weekend was the Tour de Fat. And I would say one of the things that I think is most intriguing about that event is how family friendly it is. And if you haven't had the opportunity to experience what it is to watch or ride in the Tour de Fat, it's something that I definitely believe you should do. Thousands and thousands of people. And yes, by the afternoon, probably some have definitely consumed more than they should. So it's kind of, the morning is for families, the afternoon's for the party, and definitely want to just be aware and cognizant of that. And if you're on trails with your kids and all that kind of stuff. Now, today we're going to jump straight into kind of the city council discussion. And what that brought with it was this community advisory board that would be paid and put on by a consulting firm. And the consulting firm, I believe, charges close to $200,000 to do this. And there would be a group of people selected at random with some intentionality behind demographics, because the concern is that obviously a conversation that's brought up on our web on our YouTube channel all the time is that Fort Collins is predominantly white. I believe it's like 88%, which is less than the 92% that it used to be. But the decision makers in here should not just be the likelihood is that of the 30 people that I believe would be a part of this group, the likelihood it could be very much all, people with a single similar background and not different cultural expectations and desires. So there is a conversation about how does this kind of, I would say, random panel get selected with understanding that there are a lot of different voices that should be heard. That will then dictate what will happen potentially, because it still will then go back in front of city council. And my guess is if this is done in 2025, early in 2025, Q1, we will still have the same city council that will be voting on this. potentially 1 or 2 seats. I don't know the seats that are up, but I believe one of them is a kind of a dissenting vote. Essentially, we voted 5-2. This time it was 3-2 because we had 2 missing votes. But with those 2 missing votes, the way that they voted previously was in favor of this community advisory panel. And the 2 dissenting votes, one of them is up for a re-election, I believe. And if she gets reelected, I don't know, but it could be a conversation. The decision that this community advisory panel presents to the city of Fort Collins will then have to be voted on by the city council. So it's not like what they decide is final by any means. It is just a matter of what they decide will be well thought out, conversations, and like hopefully a representation based off of the ballot language that was provided for us to keep Hughes as open and natural areas. So kind of a broad language, but uses that will allow for that space to be used, which will then have the city of Fort Collins City Council vote on and discuss. And if the committee advisory board puts together even some plans that are desirable, I feel like with the amount of funding that was put behind this, the votes would then follow, which suggests to me that and it looks like this advisory board is happening. And so you might be a part of this group that gets selected at random. Now they're going to be putting out emails and communications over the coming months. This consulting firm will be hired, I'm sure, very soon to get this ball rolling. And then early in Q1, they'll meet. And I believe it's like I think it's like 4 consecutive days or 4 consecutive weekends, but it's pretty intensive. And then on the backside of it, the kind of decision of what to do with Hughes will then have options to be presented to City of Fort Collins City Council. So definitely be on the lookout for that. One of the most probably landscape altering decisions and developments in Fort Collins' recent history is very much nearing a decision of what to be done with it. There were 2 public commenters that wanted to return the land to Indigenous people and believe that's what it should be used for. So, hopefully that voice is heard in that conversation. And, that could be something to where it's discussed. All right. The next thing was the banning of the retail pet sales from like puppy mills. There's only one store in Fort Collins, and I kind of wanted to talk about this just briefly because of the other kind of conversations that then it led to, and kind of a video that I was watching for the Planning and Zoning Board as well. And that is they overwhelmingly voted in favor of banning the retail sale of basically cats and dogs within Fort Collins. And there's only one store, and it's, I believe, off of College and Horsetooth. And additionally, they added language in there that said there can't be sales of dogs on like street corners, parking lots. So I don't know how all of that is going to work out. The Northern Colorado Humane Society is going to be kind of the authority figure to implement these rules for puppy and cat sales to abide by. But Kelly also made a comment, and I felt cold-hearted because when I was listening to him, I was like, man, there's just so many other things that City of Fort Collins should be talking about. And he made a discussion that, hey, there's times where there are people without voices that need to be heard. And, some of them are the most vulnerable, and including cats and dogs. And I was like, all right, I have a heart, Patrick, have a heart. And so it was with the image that he painted of, cats and dogs and cages, steel cages that don't ever get to see the light of day. It was definitely, pretty depressing. And we had 2 dogs, and I've had dogs my entire life. So I'm glad that City of Fort Collins has kind of faced this head on, and it's behind us with a great decision from my perspective that was made. for that to take place. No more retail sales of cats and dogs in retail stores in Fort Collins, as well as parking lots and street corners. And so however that language is read. But it also kind of led me to the opposite side. There was a commenter who came up and said, hey, listen, and this gets implemented May of 2025. Our jobs are gone. This is what we love to do. And I definitely feel for the employees, and I definitely feel for the business owner. And I believe that business owner bought that business from somebody, and businesses aren't sold cheap per se. They can sell for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then additionally, all of the capital that is invested. And all of a sudden you are told that, hey, no longer can you conduct business here as of May of 2025 per the city of Fort Collins ordinance. Now, then Kelly Olson said, there's times in our lives where there are things that were okay in the past that are then swept in the dustbin to never be seen again. And maybe this is one of them that we're going to look back like, I can't believe that this is how cats and dogs were sold at one point. True. And that is a risk, I guess, you take as a business owner in Fort Collins. Like right now, I think even to this day, I still would not touch a weed manufacturing or just business in general, as the rules federally versus on a state level conflict. And that to me is a huge financial risk. And while they're, yes, reaping these huge financial rewards, the possibility of your operation getting shut down, and even in 6 months, is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of investment potentially risked and lost on a deal like that. So I feel for the business owner, but I guess that's a risk of business, and hopefully they're able to successfully pivot, however that might be, and move on from there. Additionally, there was on the Planning and Zoning Commission that I was watching, they were discussing water supply requirements and what they are going to finally recommend to the city of Fort Collins as what to charge as far as a water supply requirement. And essentially what this is the cost for one single family house to have a water tap and or a water allotment for a commercial user, and what that fee is, and how they can do business and how they can conduct business. There was a time, and it's funny how throughout this entire time, through the work session, now planning and zoning, and when it goes back in front of city council, there has been no mention. And I'm going to look it up right now, because I remember texting a friend of mine who is also a mentor, who owns a significant amount of water rights. Water rights are, one of the reasons I was late on this live today was because of the client that I was calling me was actually a water engineer. So I was like, oh man, small world. I was literally just listening to a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting about water supply rights. And it was, what was it? I feel like it was August 9th. So I think it would have been August 8th of 2023, right around that, whatever that Tuesday was. And I could go back and look at because they have the archives, but they never talk about it. There was a consultant who came in and discussed that based off of the market cost of water rights, they would recommend charging a water supply requirement fee of $170 some odd $1,000, basically 3xing the water fee that it's currently at, $68,000. And all the city council members were just blown away. They were just like, what is happening? And no freaking way can this take place, because it'll cease development. It's already a huge cost of development for a developer, and now we're going to 3x that. And the affordability, talk about housing affordability, affordable housing supply, just decimated had this taken place. So they kind of went back to the drawing board and fired that consultant, from what we can see. And there's been a mention one time in city council, like, I I think it was Kelly Olson, and I've mentioned his name 3 times. So, good job, Kelly Olson, for all that you do for Fort Collins. Maybe I don't agree with all of your viewpoints and things of that nature, but I would say the one thing that I would not disagree with is that you definitely deeply care about Fort Collins and are very knowledgeable about its past and present. So, but he had made a comment. He goes, the one thing we haven't heard is that consultant's name in a long time. And I was like, absolutely. And that has not been discussed once. That number hasn't been discussed once in all of the city council work sessions, city planning. I mean, it's been forgotten. $180,000 essentially number has been brushed on the rug, never to be seen again. And essentially what's happening is they're trying to adjust water utility fees and these water supply requirements. And what they're recommending is a hybrid of sorts between cost and market, which would actually decrease the water supply requirement from $68,000 to $63,000, making it a little bit more affordable to build a house in northern Colorado. But that has to be voted on through city council. And, so we'll see where all of that goes. But then also additionally, the reason why I kind of am going off on that is that there's a water allotment fee, and there's 3,000 customers in Fort Collins, 2,000 of which already have the water allotment fee, 1,000 of which do not. And they're trying to bring those 1,000 clients, folding them into this fee structure. And let's just say you're a restaurant owner, and there's not many. I think there was 6 that over the last year would have been charged $110,000. So roughly about $20,000 a pop, between $10,000 to $20,000 a pop for a water excess surplus charge. And it would be tough as a business owner, restaurant owner, if I wasn't in this fold, to be charged an additional, let's just say $20,000 for the year, which immediately impacts your net operating income and increase your operating expenses. But I could see it too from the other 2,000 customers that are like, hey, listen, we've been playing by these rules this entire time, and we've had to increase our rates, or what we're charging for, a bucket of chicken, because, well, our water excess charge is $20,000, and we have to dollar cost that into each one of our buckets of chicken. Maybe it's only 10 cents, maybe it's 20, 30, 40 cents, but the place next door, their bucket of chicken's 40 cents less. And, words got out, and it's the same exact bucket. So I could see it from both sides, and equality is definitely important. Also, the preservation and security of our water in northern Colorado is of utmost importance, of which I believe the water supply requirement as well as the water allotment fees are only accounting for 5% of the utilities revenue. The other 95% is generated by the utility fees, which the loss of revenue, if we decrease from $68,000 to $63,000, would be about $4.5 million over the next 40 years, which equates to about a 0.5% annual increase in utility rates. Now they're going to get the brunt of that over the next, I think it's 2025 to 2033 or 2028 to 2033, something relatively quickly. And that'll be between a 7 to 10% annual increase. So they're going to get those increases done on the front end to adjust for that lost revenue. But essentially, it's a very small portion of our revenue base for the utility companies, whether it's the water supply requirement or the water allotment fee on the commercial side. So it's one of those things that's going down the pipeline. It's very important if you're a business owner in Fort Collins making these big decisions, multi-million-dollar decisions, what's happening in the city of Fort Collins. And that's what we do on a weekly basis, is we watch these city council meetings that are dictating what we're doing now and in the future, and what the Fort Collins landscape might look like, and opportunities or challenges that you could be facing. Now, today's video is a little bit shorter because, again, I came in about 20 minutes late from a couple of meetings that I'm super excited about. So I apologize for that, but hopefully this information was valuable. We'll kick it back off next Monday, Labor Day. So if you're off enjoy half hour, 45 minutes with me on Monday, the 2nd at 12 p.m. noon. Until next time, guys, take care. Have a great day.